think we're pretty good listeners, until we're not. The other day, my husband and I were walking our dog at the park. Tucker is adorable. He has this goofy little gallop he does when we let him off leash. The spring breeze was blowing through the tall grass, and there he went, zooming like Ricky Bobby. I was watching him, laughing, smiling, totally soaking it up. Until I heard Wes say, "Are you even listening to me?"
Of course I am!
Well, you have a funny way of showing it. Oof. That moment stuck with me because it revealed what this book has been forcing me to reckon with. Listening isn't just about hearing the words. Real listening, the kind that builds trust and connection, is about how you show up for the other person. Hi, I'm Shannon, your Barefoot Librarian. After years as a librarian and English teacher with a master's degree in holistic education, I'm kind of obsessed with practical wisdom, especially the kind that helps us show up as our best selves in the relationships that matter most. That's exactly why I'm doing this 3-part deep dive on Listen Like You Mean It by Ximena Vengoechea. Hands down, one of the most thoughtful, helpful books I've read on the art and practice of listening. This isn't a fluffy communication book about tips and tricks. It's about learning to show up fully for the people who matter most and becoming the kind of listener who stays present, curious, attuned, even when the dog is doing something adorable. Before we talk about words, that's coming up in parts 2 and 3, we have to start here, with you. Listening well begins before the conversation even starts, in your mindset, your presence, and your awareness. As Ximena puts it, good listening starts before anyone ever says a word. So let's break into the first 3 chapters to find out what's sabotaging our listening without us even realizing it, and how to read nonverbal cues like a pro. Chapter 1, Cultivate a Listening Mindset. When it comes to listening, most of us believe we're pretty good at it, until we start to pay closer attention. The truth is, real listening doesn't happen by accident. It's an intentional act, and it begins with the right mindset. In Chapter 1, Ximena Vengoechea dives into the first barrier to effective listening, our own assumptions and biases. We all listen through filters, whether we realize it or not. These filters often shape how we hear others and what we believe about their words. Maybe we assume we know what the other person will say based on past conversations or judgments we've made. Or perhaps we listen with the sole intention of confirming what we already believe, rather than opening ourselves to something new. We may even categorize their words or thoughts before they've even had a chance to finish speaking, which limits our understanding of the message. These assumptions and biases often block us from truly hearing the other person. They prevent us from listening with the openness and curiosity required to deeply connect. Ximena emphasizes that a listening mindset isn't just about hearing what's being said. It's about being aware of what's shaping our perception of those words. When we can recognize the filters through which we listen, we can start to clear them away and listen with a fresh perspective. By cultivating a mindset that's open and aware, we create the foundation for real listening to take place. Chapter 2, Stay Present. How often are we truly in the moment during conversations? If you're anything like me, your mind is racing with a million thoughts. As soon as someone starts talking, your inner dialogue kicks in, thinking of what you'll say next, mentally multitasking, or replaying past events. In those moments, we're not really listening to the other person. Instead, we're listening to our own thoughts. Ximena explains that our brains are always on alert, trying to solve problems and manage everything on our own plates. When we listen with that problem-solving mindset, we're not actually listening to the speaker's words with curiosity. Instead, we're listening to respond, to fix, or to judge. This distraction can easily derail genuine connection. We're no longer present with the person in front of us. We're present with our own mental clutter, and that's when important details and emotions can slip through the cracks. We miss the opportunity to understand where the other person is coming from and how they truly feel. It's also tempting to think that jotting down notes will help us remember important points, but Ximena highlights something powerful. Note-taking can be a distraction. As a lifelong academic, that was a shocker for me. Whether we're writing things down physically or mentally filing things away for later, our brain is no longer fully engaged in the conversation. It's focusing on the future, what we need to remember, instead of the present, what the person is actually saying right now. Now that I'm aware of this, I catch myself doing it all the time, convinced that taking notes is helping me stay on top of things. But what I've realized is, Ximena's right. When I focus on writing or mentally bookmarking a thought for later, I'm missing out on the real-time connection. I'm not absorbing the full context of the conversation. The result? I might remember bits and pieces, but I've lost the essence of the exchange. For example, a while back I was listening to a sermon. The pastor made a point that sparked my curiosity really early on, and my brain immediately went into fact-checker mode. I started wondering if he might have taken something out of context. So I spent the next 20 minutes of this sermon consulting my concordance and cross-referencing the Greek and Hebrew translations of the word he used. By the time the sermon ended, I found my answer and verified the translation. But here's the kicker. I had missed literally everything else in the message. My mind was so focused on proving something I thought was wrong that I didn't engage with the message itself. Ximena suggests a better approach. Listen with abandon. When we let go of the need to take notes during the conversation, our brain naturally prioritizes what's most important and remembers it instinctively. How cool is that? Afterward, when the conversation has ended, we can take a moment to jot down the key takeaways. Just like a journalist recording an interview, this post-conversation reflection allows us to capture what's necessary while still honoring the full engagement of the moment. This is where the real work begins. Staying present requires us to intentionally quiet our inner dialogue, to push aside distractions, and focus solely on the speaker. When we do this, we can shift from merely hearing the words to truly understanding what's being communicated. It's about putting down the mental checklist and tuning in, not just with our ears, but also our hearts and minds. Being present isn't easy, but it's necessary. And as we'll see, it's the key to building stronger connections and understanding the people around us more deeply. Chapter 3, pay attention as you listen. Listening isn't just about hearing words. It's about observing everything else happening in the conversation. The body language, tone, micro expressions, and even the emotions under the surface. To become a great listener, you have to tune into these cues as much as the words themselves. But where do we start? Ximena introduces us to her iceberg analogy. When it comes to communication, think of an iceberg. The tip of the iceberg represents the words being spoken. But what's often more important is everything underneath the surface, the intended meaning and the emotions that aren't being verbalized. What's said might only be a small part of the whole story. So by paying attention to what's hidden below the surface, you can better understand what's truly being communicated. Here's an embarrassing example for you. A couple of weeks before my wedding, I had a conversation with my dad that perfectly illustrates how easily we can miss what's really going on beneath the surface of words. He called and the conversation quickly spiraled into all kinds of details. Weather forecasts, the wedding arch, salmon boats, even though Wes and I are both plant-based. Decorations, logistics, the list went on and on. I tried to keep up, but after a while, the stress hit. When he finally paused for a breath, I snapped. Something I didn't even realize I was doing at the time. "Whoa," he said, calmly noticing the tension in my voice. "That's a big reaction. Is this about more than the tea fountain?" It wasn't about the decorations at all. My dad, even through the phone, picked up on the fact that my reaction had way more to do with the stress I was carrying. It wasn't the wedding details, it was the pressure of it all that I wasn't even aware of until he pointed it out. His calmness and ability to notice what was behind my words helped bring me back down to earth to realize I was about to lose it over something much smaller than the bigger emotions at play. This is exactly the kind of listening Ximena talks about, being able to tune into not just the words being spoken, but the energy behind them. Listening to the emotions, the tone, and the subtle cues can often say more than the words themselves. One of the most powerful forms of nonverbal communication is facial expression. Our eyes are poetically called the window to the soul because they reveal so much. When we pay attention to someone's eye contact, smiles, frowns, or even the slightest micro expressions, we can start to gauge the underlying emotions they might not be saying out loud. For example, direct eye contact signals engagement, while avoiding eye contact may suggest discomfort or evasion. A smile can show warmth or happiness, but if it's a forced smile, it may indicate discomfort or someone trying to hide something. A frown or furrowed brow can signal confusion, concern, or disapproval. By observing these small shifts in expression, we can learn more about the emotional state of the speaker. Next, let's talk about body language, which is another key way to read how someone is really feeling or thinking. Pay attention to posture. It can tell you a lot about how a person feels. Leaning forward usually indicates interest and engagement, while slouching or crossing arms might indicate defensiveness or discomfort. Large posture, standing tall or sitting up straight with open gestures, typically signals confidence and openness, while small posture, shrinking back or hunching, or holding the limbs close to the body can indicate anxiety, defensiveness, or feeling overwhelmed. The way someone uses their hands, whether they're open and expressive or closed and withdrawn, can provide cues about their openness or hesitation. Foot posturing is another subtle but telling cue. Feet pointed towards the person can indicate interest and connection, while feet pointed away or toward the door may show a desire to disengage or escape the conversation. Additionally, micro-expressions, those quick involuntary facial movements, can give you insight into another person's true emotions, even if they try to mask them. Vocal cues are another essential aspect of truly understanding the conversation. Pitch, pacing, volume, expressiveness, rhythm, and tone all play an important role in how we communicate and how we perceive others. When we listen deeply, we notice not just what's said, but how it's said. Here's a mini deep dive into each of these cues. First up, pitch. This is the highness or lowness of our voice. A high pitch can signal excitement, nervousness, or anxiety, while a lower pitch often conveys calmness or authority. When someone's pitch rises suddenly, they might be feeling surprised or anxious about something. If you notice your own voice rising, it might be a cue that you're feeling tense or overly excited. Pacing is the speed at which we speak. If someone is speaking quickly, they may be anxious, excited, or trying to get through something quickly. Slower pacing suggests someone is either more calm or carefully thinking through their words. Pay attention to the rhythm of the conversation. Sudden changes in pace often indicate shifts in emotion or thought. Volume is how loud or soft someone speaks. A loud voice can indicate anger, confidence, or enthusiasm, while a soft voice might indicate hesitation or vulnerability. Notice whether someone's volume increases when discussing a stressful topic or if they soften when speaking about something more personal. In yourself, if you're raising your voice, it might be a sign of frustration or an attempt to assert control. Expressiveness refers to the emotional variation in the voice. When someone's voice is lively and expressive, it shows engagement and excitement. A flat or monotone voice can signal that someone is disengaged, unsure, or even masking their true emotions. If you catch yourself speaking in a flat tone, it might indicate that you're distracted or emotionally detached from the conversation. Rhythm is the flow of speech, the rise and fall of words. A steady rhythm suggests confidence and clarity, while choppy or erratic speech may show discomfort or indecisiveness. Pay attention to pauses. Sometimes silence can say just as much as words. In your own speaking, if you find yourself jumping from idea to idea without pauses, it might signal stress or a desire to get the conversation over with. Last up, tone is the overall emotional quality of someone's voice. A warm, friendly tone conveys openness and approachability, while a cold, flat tone might signal disinterest or anger. Tone often gives away emotions that words alone don't. If you notice yourself using a dismissive or sarcastic tone, it's worth reflecting on how that might impact your conversation. By observing these signs, whether in body language, facial expressions, vocal cues, or through Ximena's iceberg analogy, you start listening with your whole self. Paying attention to what's not being said allows you to better connect with the speaker and understand the emotions and intentions behind their words. This deeper level of listening helps you become a more engaged and empathetic listener, and ultimately strengthens your ability to truly hear the person in front of you. As I work on becoming a better listener, I stop to ask myself, am I really paying attention to this person's body, voice, and energy, or am I just hearing their words? Honestly, I don't always get this right, but I've learned that if I want to listen like I truly mean it, I have to show up differently, even before I say anything. For me, that means shifting my mindset a little. I try to choose curiosity over control. Instead of trying to steer the conversation, I focus on understanding the other person's perspective. I'm working on presence over productivity. Instead of rushing through, I try to be fully present in the moment. And I focus on observation over assumption. I remind myself to pay attention to the body language, tone, and energy beneath the words, rather than assuming I already know what's being said. I'm still learning, but making these shifts has helped me feel more connected to the people I care about. It's not always perfect, but it's a step toward deeper relationships. You guys, this is just the start. In the next part of this series, we're going to shift gears from mindset to skill, diving in how to navigate a conversation with intention and clarity. But before we close, I'd love to hear from you. Where do you see yourself on this listening journey? And what's been your biggest challenge when it comes to truly listening? Drop a comment below. I would love to connect and hear your thoughts. And if you're ready to keep diving deeper, don't forget to check out the book link below for even more great insights. That's all for now. Take care, stay curious, and I'll see you next time.